Okay, imagine this for a second. That sandwich you just grabbed, maybe that sugary drink, even just a handful of chips. What if that exact food is like directly shaping your mood right now, your energy, even how well your brain is working? Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something pretty fascinating, maybe even a bit alarming. It's the connection between what we eat, especially fast food, ultra processed stuff, how we feel mentally, and our energy levels. We've gone through a whole stack of sources to really try and uncover these hidden impacts of our diet. Our mission, really, is to help connect those dots between what's on your plate and, well, how you're doing overall. Because we've all been there, haven't we? That afternoon slump that just hits you out of nowhere, maybe feeling suddenly irritable or just struggling to focus. You wonder why. Well, maybe, just maybe, the answer is right there in what you ate. Let's start unpacking this a bit.
Yeah, and I think what's really key here is just how fast our bodies react, like immediately. Fast food, it's often packed with refined carbs, think white bread, sugars, stuff like that. And your body breaks that down super quickly, almost instantly. So you get this really rapid spike in your blood sugar.
Okay. So that quick burst of energy people talk about, the sugar rush, is that what's going on there, physiologically?
That's exactly it. That burst is the sugar rush. But then, in response to all that sugar hitting at once, your body releases this unusually large surge of insulin. And it's that big insulin wave that causes your blood sugar to drop sharply, sometimes quite dramatically.
Okay.
And that's when you start feeling tired, sluggish even. And to make things worse, that same insulin response, it actually makes you feel hungry again pretty quickly, often not long after you've just eaten.
Wow, so the crash leads straight back to hunger. It's a loop. How fast are we talking here?
It can be surprisingly fast, sometimes within an hour, maybe two. And it's not only the sugar either. High salt content, also super common in fast food, that can immediately affect how well your blood vessels work.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it leads to water retention too, that bloated, heavy feeling. And beyond that, even a single serving of fast food, especially if it's high in saturated fat, can increase inflammation all through your body.
Inflammation, like right away.
Right away.
Yeah.
It's not just some vague long-term thing. For some people, it can even trigger things like asthma attacks, acute inflammatory responses.
So that feeling, that crash after a burger and fries or a big soda, there's actual science happening right then and there. Quick boost, hard crash, makes sense. But here's the thing. If it makes us feel lousy afterwards, why do we keep going back? That must involve the brain, right?
Absolutely. And this is where it gets interesting, because our brains are, in a sense, being a bit tricked. Our sources show we're wired to seek out rewarding things, survival mechanism, really. And junk food, it hijacks that system. It activates those reward circuits and releases dopamine.
Dopamine, okay. The pleasure chemical.
Exactly. So you get this powerful, pleasurable kick. It feels good in the moment.
Which explains why it's so tempting, yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
But here's the catch. The brain adapts to this intense pleasure. It actually starts making more dopamine receptors, which means over time, you need more and more of that junk food to get the same feeling.
Like building up a tolerance.
Precisely. Just like how tolerance or even addiction can develop. This super tasty, highly palatable fast food activates those reward centers so effectively, it basically trains your taste buds, your brain, to prefer it over whole, fresh foods. There's even research linking frequent fast food consumption directly to, well, food addiction patterns for these kinds of low-nutrient food.
Wow, so our own brains are being rewired to crave the stuff that ultimately makes us feel worse. That's quite a battle going on inside.
It really is an invisible battle against those cravings. And there's another layer too, impulsivity. The part of our brain responsible for control, for thinking ahead, the prefrontal cortex, it isn't fully developed until our early 20s.
Right, I've heard that.
So teenagers, young adults, they're particularly vulnerable to that immediate gratification junk food offers. They haven't got the full braking system online yet, so to speak. There was research, for instance, with adolescent rats. Giving them sugary water actually affected their decision-making when they became adults. They found it harder to follow rules, basically.
So early habits can actually hardwire things for later.
It suggests that, yes, early exposure could have these lasting effects on our self-control mechanisms.
Okay, so it's physical, it's neurological, but food is also emotional, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's comfort, it's reward. How does that fit into this picture? What does this tell us about our relationship with food?
That's a really crucial point, because we often use food in ways we don't even fully realize. Our sources talk about emotional eating as like a disguised form of escapism. The fast food drive-through can become a coping strategy for stress, for sadness, for boredom. And it often becomes a cycle. You don't have great coping tools, maybe. Plus, your body is genuinely craving those high-fat, high-sugar foods. And it can lead to this kind of feast or famine pattern.
Right, where you try to be good for a while, then just kind of cave in.
Exactly. And you get that initial rush, maybe a feeling of euphoria or just numbness from the food.
Yeah.
But it doesn't last. Then comes the guilt, the shame, which ironically can just trigger more eating to cope with those feelings. There's a really powerful example in our sources, actually. Mental health counselor Brad Novak. He talked openly about how he used McDonald's fries multiple times a week to deal with the pain of his divorce.
Wow. From a counselor himself.
Yeah. And his point was just acknowledging why he was doing it was the first massive step. He said guilt and shame often just mask the need for accountability, for actually facing the issue.
That really hits home. It's not just what you eat, but why.
Precisely. And often the roots go way back to childhood. Think about it. Food gets programmed as reward or comfort really early on. Right. Ice cream for good grades, treats when you're sad.
Sure, yeah.
And our sources point out, if a child experiences trauma or emotional neglect, eating might become one of the very first coping mechanisms they develop. It's always available. Then, as adults, they might unconsciously use food to fill that void because maybe they never learned other ways to soothe themselves or manage those difficult emotions.
This completely changes how you think about your food choices, doesn't it? It's so much deeper than just hunger. Okay, so let's widen the lens again. We've talked short-term effects, brain chemistry, emotional links. What about the long haul? The long-term health impacts, especially for our brains.
Right. And looking long-term, the consequences become, well, quite stark. Physically, we know regular fast food consumption significantly bumps up the risk for obesity, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, heart problems. The list goes on. And get this, some research suggests junk food can cause serious negative changes to your metabolism in as little as 5 days.
5 days? Seriously?
Seriously, including making your body less able to properly use glucose sugar for energy, especially in your muscles. Your body just becomes less efficient at handling sugar.
That is incredibly fast.
It really is. And then there's gut health. Fast food is typically very low in fiber. And a low-fiber diet messes with your digestion, constipation, sure, but also it reduces the good bacteria in your gut, which we now know is super important. If you look at the typical Western diet, lots of sugar, salt, saturated fat, it drives chronic inflammation throughout the body. This can lower your ability to fight off infections, and it's linked to higher rates of certain diseases, even some cancers and allergic conditions.
So it's undermining our body's basic defenses. It's not just about weight gain at all. And the brain, you mentioned inflammation there too.
Yes, and this is a huge area. Junk food can literally cause inflammation in the brain. It's called neuroinflammation. And that damages neurons, the brain cells themselves. There was Australian research showing just 5 days on a diet, heavy in sugary drinks, cakes, cookies. It increased inflammation markers in the hippocampus.
The hippocampus, remind me, that's the memory bit.
Exactly, crucial for memory and learning. And here's where a nasty cycle can kick in. A damaged hippocampus might actually make you feel hungry more often. It plays a role in receiving those I'm full signals from your gut.
No.
Yeah. So the junk food causes damage. The damage makes you hungrier, potentially for more junk food.
Oh.
You see the
Have
problem.
a vicious cycle.
Completely.
Yeah.
Plus, these diets reduce neuroplasticity. That's the brain's ability to adapt, form new connections, learn new things. People eating lots of junk food tend to do worse on memory tests. And it can also reduce neurogenesis, the actual birth of new neurons, which happens mainly in the hippocampus throughout our lives.
We grow new brain cells.
We do. But junk food seems to slow that down. And lower rates of new neuron growth, that's linked to things like depression. So you get another cycle, feel down, eat junk for a temporary lift, which makes the underlying problem worse.
Wow, the way these things compound it's actually quite scary when you lay it all out. It really hammers home that food isn't just calories, it's information. It's fundamental to everything, body and mind. And you mentioned the gut earlier with the fullness signals. Let's dive deeper into that, the gut-brain axis. That sounds important.
Oh, it's incredibly important and fascinating. The gut is often called the second brain, and for good reason. It has this huge network of nerve cells, the enteric nervous system, that can manage digestion pretty much on its own. And it produces many of the same chemicals as the brain, including neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, the feel-good ones.
So our gut makes happy chemicals.
A lot of them, yes. And these two brains, the one in your head and the one in your gut, they're constantly talking to each other.
How? How does that communication work?
Well, there are two main routes. First, there's a physical connection, the vagus nerve. Think of it like a direct highway running messages back and forth between the gut and the brain, and the heart and lungs too, actually. Second, there's chemical messaging. Hormones and neurotransmitters released from the gut travel through the bloodstream to the brain and vice versa. And here's a critical piece. The makeup of your gut microbiome, all those trillions of bacteria, viruses, fungi living in your gut, they heavily influence these chemical messages.
Wait, so the bugs in our gut are sending signals that affect our brain and mood?
That's pretty much it, yeah. They influence the production and release of those neurotransmitters.
Yeah.
And here's why it's so relevant to mood. Stress and anxiety can really mess up the balance of that gut microbiome. Kill off some good guys, let others overgrow. And that disruption can mean less release of serotonin, less dopamine. Research strongly suggests this directly contributes to symptoms of depression and anxiety.
So if your stomach's feeling off, your mood could genuinely follow.
Absolutely. And the other way around, too. It's a two-way street. That gut feeling you have, it might be quite literal. It's a profound connection.
Wow. That really drives home how interconnected everything is. Okay, but this isn't just about the negative side, right? We know what not to do, maybe. Now that we understand how fast food can impact us, let's flip it. What can we do? How can we use diet to support better mood and energy?
Yes, absolutely. And the good news is there's a lot we can do. The power is largely in our hands. Our sources are really consistent on this. Choosing whole, unprocessed foods makes a massive difference. Things like vegetables, fruits, whole grains like wild rice. They're packed with nutrients that directly boost performance, help sleep, improve mood, stabilize energy. A key thing they do is slow down how quickly sugar gets absorbed into your bloodstream, so you avoid those spikes and crashes we talked about.
Right. Giving you steady, reliable energy, not that up and down roller coaster.
Exactly. And certain nutrients are particularly key. B vitamins, you find those in things like wild salmon, lean organic beef, broccoli, sunflower seeds. They're crucial for energy production at a cellular level. Fiber is huge, too. From sources like flax seeds, sweet potatoes, beans, whole grains. It helps sustain energy by slowing digestion and sugar release. And, simple as it sounds, water. Even mild dehydration can make you feel tired and foggy, affects alertness, focus.
It always comes back to the simple things sometimes, doesn't it? Water, fiber. What about those omega-3s you hear so much about? Fish oil and stuff. Where do they fit in with brain health and mood?
Oh yes, omega-3s, specifically EPA and DHA, which you get mainly from oily fish or good quality supplements. They are absolutely vital for brain structure and function. Now, the research suggests they might not, supercharge a perfectly healthy brain or reverse Alzheimer's on their own, but they can significantly improve brain function in people with mild cognitive impairment or just age-related cognitive decline. That's pretty well established.
Okay, so helpful for certain situations. What about mood, though? Depression.
That's where it gets really interesting. Our sources highlight studies showing fish oil supplements, especially those higher in EPA, can improve symptoms of depression. Some research even suggests the effect size can be comparable to standard antidepressant.
Oh, really?
Yes, though they seem to work best when used alongside antidepressants. They kind of boost the effect. And importantly, omega-3s also support neurogenesis and neuroplasticity. Remember, those processes that junk food harms. Omega-3s seem to help build them back up.
So the right kinds of fats can actually help repair the brain and support mood. That's powerful.
Yeah, it really is. And it's not just about specific nutrients. Lifestyle matters too. Simply adding more fresh fruits and vegetables full of those anti-inflammatory antioxidants and getting regular aerobic exercise. Huge benefits for both body and brain. And especially for young people, our sources stress that a good quality diet is linked to preventing and managing mental health issues. Things like a Mediterranean-style diet show real promise for reducing depression risk in youth. It really comes down to making consistent, more thoughtful choices day by day.
It sounds like every meal, every snack really is an opportunity, a chance to either nudge things in a negative direction or actively support your health, your mood, your energy. It shifts the focus from just avoiding bad stuff to embracing the good stuff.
Exactly. It's about nourishment, not just filling a hole.
So the takeaway here seems crystal clear. That link between what you eat and how you feel mentally, physically, it's profound, it's real, it's backed by science. And it goes so much deeper than just weight. We're talking brain power, emotional resilience, just having the energy to live your life fully. So maybe something to think about as we wrap up. Consider all those small food choices you make every single day, the ones that seem insignificant. What if each one isn't just feeding your stomach, but is actively sculpting your emotional landscape? Shaping your capacity for joy, for focus, for just feeling good. We really encourage you to reflect on your own patterns, maybe dig a little deeper into what's on your plate. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it useful, and we look forward to having you with us for the next one.